Mon gratitude $42 an op patrons. Tatuet mermaid of bots. Patrick Hallene and David Taylor. The Mon Lord will bless you with many beautiful things.
Hello, friends, and welcome to my fuck farm. I'm Joe.
I'm David.
And I'm the cummy cow.
Moo.
All right, yeah.
Milk me, daddy.
Well, I hope everybody else feels weird, too.
I don't.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Why don't you come over and tell me how I feel?
Yes,
God, I'm
daddy.
in a weird mood today.
That's good, because we're recording a podcast.
David, when you buy the the automatic milkers for me, make sure that they're ones that they're not too high tech. I don't want it to be smooth. I want it to be rattly and loud,
Nice.
And it'll be, and then I'll just sit there all day going.
Don't forget to zap his little bottom with the cattle prod when he acts up.
So now, about Origins.
Yeah, we're going to finish, hopefully be done with the shite-ass Dan Brown book we've been reading all month.
Look, Dan Brown may have forced this book on the world. I just forced my cummy cow fetish onto the world, but at least it was quick. That took about 30, 45 seconds.
Yeah, you didn't write multiple books.
Although I could.
About your cummy cow fetish?
Yes.
He could. That's no justification. There's a lot of things I could do.
That's fair.
David, I think you're the one that told me, just because you can drive your car with your feet doesn't mean you should.
I don't know if it was me that said that, but it sounds like something I would say, so I'll own it.
It's an old Chris Rock joke from the 90s, I think.
Yeah, you relayed that to me as a Chris Rock joke.
Oh, sure. What the fuck? Oh, right, we're doing this. I completely lost my train of thought for a second. Where am I?
Choo-choo, motherfucker.
Origins.
Whatever. The less said about Dan Brown, the better. We're going to read the book. I guess I should remind you to go to WeGiveYouBrainworms.com, where you can support Chris's cum cow fetish with money.
Cummy cow.
Cummy cow.
There's a difference.
I'm sorry for disrespecting you.
I'll let it slide this time.
Don't kink shame.
Exactly, yeah. No judgments here. Don't forget to engage with us on our social media. Every subscription, every interaction you give us on our YouTube channel is a delicious blade of grass that Chris gets to consume.
Support my milk production.
Yeah, do that.
You can just, if you're into this kind of thing, follow us on Facebook or Instagram, where you'll be inundated with odd things.
Yeah, we occasionally post funny content to our various social medias.
See, that's a little misleading. We are very professional and composed. I couldn't. I tried.
God fucking damn it. Is that everything? Did I remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We're done.
All right, David, read Origins.
Once more into the breach, my friends.
Woo!
About a year ago, Kirsch had surprised Langdon by asking him not about art, but about God. An odd topic for a self-proclaimed atheist. Over a plate of short-rib crudeau at Boston's Tiger Mama, Kirsch had picked Langdon's brain on the core beliefs of various world religions, in particular their different stories of the creation. Langdon gave him a solid overview of current beliefs, from the Genesis story shared by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all the way through the Hindu story of Brahma, the Babylonian tale of Marduk, and others.
Babylon 5.
I'm curious, Langdon asked as they left the restaurant. Why is a futurist so interested in the past? Does this mean our famous atheist has finally found God?
I hate these fucking characters so much.
Yeah, because, when I became an atheist, I immediately just stopped referencing or acknowledging the psychological effect of a higher being on human existence.
Edmund let out a hearty laugh. Wishful thinking. I'm just sizing up my competition, Robert. Langdon smiled. Typical. Well, science and religion are not competitors. They're two different languages trying to tell the same story. There's room in this world for both.
Disagree.
I don't know that I do.
I believe in science.
I don't believe in science in the same way that I don't believe in tables. They
Right.
exist. I don't have to waste time believing in
Right.
them. They are both useful tools, and I guess, that I don't know.
I was making an obscure Nacho Libre reference, okay?
Nobody watched that movie.
That's why it was obscure. I just wanted to clarify before you went into this too hard. I was not coming at you. I was saying I believe in science, like the guy in that fucking weird Jack Black movie.
That
David,
no one
continue.
watched.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I will always allow for obscure Jack Black references.
I do like Jack Black.
Me too. There's only one of him. He's absolutely an original.
Yeah.
After that meeting, Edmund had dropped out of contact for almost a year. And then, out of the blue, 3 days ago, Langdon had received a FedEx envelope with a plane ticket, a hotel reservation, and a handwritten note from Edmund urging him to attend tonight's event. It read, "Robert, it would mean the world to me if you, of all people, could attend. Your insights during our last conversation helped make this night possible." Langdon was baffled. Nothing about that conversation seemed remotely relevant to an event that would be hosted by a futurist. The FedEx envelope also included a black and white image of two people standing face to face. Kirsch had written
Like
a
nose
short
to
poem
nose?
to Langdon. "Robert, when you see me face to face, I'll reveal the empty space. Edmund."
Kiss him.
Langdon smiled when he saw the image, a clever allusion to an episode in which Langdon had been involved several years earlier. The silhouette of a chalice, or grail cup, revealed itself in the empty space between the two faces. And there's one of those optical illusion photograph, the one you've probably all seen it. It's black and white, and it does look like two faces
Or a chalice.
right next to each other with, so.
Vases or faces.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is kind of wishful thinking. Do you think Dan Brown saw that one day in his old age and was like, "Oh, this is the coolest thing ever. I've got to put this in my book."
He does like stuff like that.
I doubt this image was the motivating factor for him writing this book,
Right.
but I don't know. We'll find out. Or I guess we won't, because we probably won't finish the book. But
Hell no.
now Langdon stood outside this museum, eager to learn what his former student was about to announce. A light breeze ruffled his jacket tails as he moved along the cement walkway on the bank of the meandering Nervion River, which had once been the lifeblood of a thriving industrial city. As Langdon rounded a bend in the pathway, he finally permitted himself to look at the massive, glimmering museum. The structure was impossible to take in at a glance. Instead, his gaze traced back and forth along the entire length of the bizarre, elongated forms. This building doesn't just break the rules, Langdon thought, it ignores them completely. A perfect spot for Edmund. Yeah, I get it. You want to establish the guy as a rogue or whatever, a free thinker, individual. But Jesus Christ, you don't have to hammer it home
Yeah.
quite that. I'm sure that if Robert Langdon and Edmund Kirsch know each other well and are friends, I feel certain that every now and again, his buddy Robert Langdon would think of him in ways that weren't just, my goodness, he's such a maverick.
If Dan Brown is that taken with the vases or faces thing, nobody tell him what anamorphosis is, or his brain will just punch through his skull.
But yeah, never in my inner monologue am I like, "Oh yes, David, my handsome and clever friend. I haven't spoken to him in a while."
I'm disappointed.
It's taken as read. I don't need to consciously think it.
I consciously think that about David all the time.
Of course, David would invite me to meet with him to have tea in the forest, for he is very sagely.
Yeah, that's not a natural, that's not how people think about their friends normally, I don't feel.
And we'll probably touch on this more at the end, but I think one just kind of constant throughout Dan Brown's writing is that his dialogue is not his strong point. I do think he has interesting ideas.
I think he has interesting ideas, but I feel like he gets hung up on the wrong details, at least based on the 3 books of his that I'm familiar with. He gets so hung up on just giving you so much of the wrong information that you have to dig a tunnel underneath all of that to find the actual story that's interesting.
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Digital Fortress would have fallen apart if we didn't know that one lady had nice legs.
I personally think that what really made that book stand out was the fact that its protagonist played squash.
Yeah.
I thought it was because he was a billionaire and was really smart and sexy.
I don't think he was a billionaire.
No, he was
A professor. It was Robert Langdon before there was a Robert Langdon.
yeah.
You never said it wasn't a billionaire, you know? So, there you go.
Well, no, it did. It suggested that he just got by on his professor income. And
Look,
then...
you have to be insanely rich to play squash, okay?
Or a professor at like an Ivy League school.
Yeah. And have access to their gymnasium.
Did we ever figure out what squash is? What is squash?
It's a sport. Like, I don't personally know what it is, but it's not like a mystery that we need to solve.
It puts me in mind of like a variation of tennis for some reason.
Yeah, that's not untrue.
I don't know what squash is. I'm sorry.
The listeners demand to know.
The Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain, looked like something out of an alien hallucination. A swirling collage of warped metallic forms that appeared to have been propped up against one another in an almost random way. Stretching into the distance, the chaotic mass of shapes was draped in more than 30,000 titanium tiles that glinted like fish scales and gave the structure a simultaneously organic and extraterrestrial feel.
Isn't this all just describing the building that the characters are going to meet and have like a plot progressing conversation in?
Yeah.
Yes, this is what they call setting the scene.
I appreciate that. I got that. I got the first paragraph describing it.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Brown does seem to like his museums.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who also likes museums, I can't really hold that against him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, but I can also see Chris's point that this feels like a lot of words for what's essentially an establishing shot.
Right.
And also, David, if you were going to write a book where you have a character that likes museums as much as you do, but like, you know, he was going to get assassinated in the museum, would you spend more time focusing on the museums and the background as opposed to, you know, the main character or whatever?
Well, you know, it comes down to my constant criticism of, for instance, Anne Rice.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really read Anne Rice because in any given Anne Rice novel,
Mm-hmm.
she will spend 5 pages telling you in exquisite and almost agonizing detail everything that is in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and then a sentence telling you what happens in it.
Right.
And I've got to admit, I think that Dan Brown does a slightly better job than Anne Rice in that regard.
Sure.
They're both basically, I don't want to say necessarily dime store novelists, although if the shoe fits, I mean, I think they've both been on the New York Times bestseller list, but so was a book that was written as a joke to prove that if you put enough sex in books, people would buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's meaningless.
What book is that?
I forget the name of it.
That sounds way
but,
more interesting. Can we read that book?
Yeah, it's on the list. David and I had a conversation about it.
As Langdon approached, the tiled facade seemed to morph with each step, offering a fresh personality from every angle. The museum's most dramatic illusion now became visible. Incredibly, from this perspective, the colossal structure appeared to be quite literally floating on water, adrift on a vast infinity lagoon that lapped against the museum's outer walls. Langdon paused a moment to marvel at the effect and then set out to cross the lagoon via the minimalist footbridge that arched over the glassy expanse of water. He was only halfway across when a loud hissing noise startled him.
Oh shit, it's a snake. It's a snake from Spasms.
Oh, God, from Deathbite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to toss that thing across the room.
It was emanating from beneath his feet. He stopped short just as a swirling cloud of mist began billowing out from beneath the walkway.
It's a snake wizard. Holy shit, this book got way cooler.
The thick veil of fog rose around him and then tumbled outward across the lagoon, rolling toward the museum and engulfing the base of the entire structure.
Is Langdon being transported to the domain of dread?
The fog sculpture, Langdon thought.
Oh.
He had read about this work by Japanese artist Fujiko Nakaya. The sculpture was revolutionary in that it was constructed out of the medium of visible air, a wall of fog that materialized and dissipated over time. And because the breezes and atmospheric conditions were never identical one day to the next, The sculpture was different every time it appeared.
So it's just fog.
That actually sounds kind of cool. I'd like to see that.
It does sound really cool. It also sounds like someone got paid a lot of money to install a fog machine.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, like, the way that it's described sounds like that. I feel like if Dan Brown is referencing an actual thing,
I'm
I
sure
feel
he
like
is.
the real thing may be more, what's the word, like having more detail than someone is recognizing in it.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure it's there's more to it than that. But again, like,
It does sound like a fog machine the way it's described.
Yeah.
also, fuck art. Honestly, in a world where someone who admittedly was making a statement about art in the effect of
Mhm.
literally had a fucking banana hanging in a gallery.
Right.
Just a banana. Just a banana. And it wasn't even the same banana. Like, he didn't do anything to it. When the installation was moved different places, the notes on the art project were that they had to go and get bananas to replace them as they started to go bad.
Right.
So it's just a fucking banana duct taped to a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire art world lost their collective shit when someone went in and ate it, even though it's just a banana.
The eating of it sounds more artistic than the hanging of the banana.
Yeah, totally. And this is a whole other thing, but I have very strong feelings. I honestly, one of my pet concepts that I'll probably never actually realize is I want to go around and just take photographs of the artist statements at other galleries and just photograph the artist statements and then put together a gallery show of other people's artist statements.
Nice.
Because at this point, that's the only thing that actually makes it fucking art.
Quick update. I quickly watched a video about the fog sculpture.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting. It's just a fog machine that floats over some water.
Yeah.
I was really hoping there would be more craft to it.
You could go to any foggy place where fog rolls off of the water, off of a lake, and honestly see something that's much more aesthetically interesting for free.
Not only that, but actually something that was crafted by the non-constructed systems of nature, which makes it more interesting and rare than someone putting a fog machine in a museum.
And I should say that in the interest of not offending people who think that I'm just anti-art.
Which you are.
Well, I'm anti-capital A art. I'm anti-gatekeeping in the art world. I think it's ridiculous and stupid, and I think that when I live in a world where in the same year I saw someone who made an amazing portrait of Bob Marley out of matchsticks, studiously putting them all into position and then lighting them on fire, and that just being his work, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And that guy got some views on Facebook, and then there's a guy who puts a fucking banana on a wall. And how much did Banksy's portrait, the girl with the balloon, go for, and how much more valuable was it after he tried to shred it and it failed? It's all just bullshit. It's all capitalization. It's all been monetized. And the argument could be made that art has always been monetized, and the only reason we remember any artists is because they were getting paid. I hate it. It makes me so angry.
I don't disagree.
As an artist that for the longest time made his earnings via art, I can say that making art for art's sake is fine. You can splash paint on a canvas all day. If that makes you feel content, do it. As far as the art world is concerned, it doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't matter though. It doesn't hurt art that stuff exists. Does that make sense? Am I just rambling?
No, I get you. And I mean, you are an artist, obviously. You make your living drawing things and creating representations of things and making art. So yeah, you're an artist. But it's very unlikely that at any point you're going to be, getting a gallery show. That sort of thing.
I've only had one.
Yeah, I was there. I remember.
I didn't like it.
It's the gatekeeping of art that I find problematic.
I agree. Although, if anything, that does have the advantage of encouraging on the ground kind of DIY level, kind of a self-constructing art scene. And I actually think that's more exciting than this fog sculpture is some bullshit.
Real quick, I just want to say that the Bob Marley matchstick thing reminds me of sand mandalas.
Yeah.
Where they spend like so much time constructing the mandala, and once it's done, they have to wipe it clean.
Yep.
And that as a concept to express the sentiments of what's the word I'm looking for? Not being permanent.
Ephemeral.
Thank you. That. What David said.
All right. So I've ranted about art for long enough. Get back to this damn book. The bridge stopped hissing, and Langdon watched the wall of fog settle silently across the lagoon, swirling and creeping as if it had a mind of its own.
It's not that exciting, Dan Brown. Stop
The
it.
effect was both ethereal and disorienting. The entire museum now appeared to be hovering over the water, resting weightlessly on a cloud.
Do you think Dan Brown has never seen real fog? And then he saw this fog sculpture, which is literally just a fog machine that's been placed under this kind of natural fountain so that the fog floats up and kind of goes off. And he saw that and was like, fucking fairies did this.
I feel like if Da Vinci was in charge of this fog machine thing, he would have had the room constructed and certain air vents put into place so that air currents would be...
I mean, you could do that, and...
But I mean, the fog would release, and it would form a certain image every time. Like, I feel like there would be more intent behind it.
Yeah, I actually think that would be really cool, and I would love to see someone put their work into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I'm not gonna.
No, hell no.
But, anyway, just as Langdon was about to set out again, the tranquil surface of the water was shattered by a series of small eruptions. Suddenly, 5 flaming pillars of fire shot skyward out of the lagoon, thundering steadily like rocket engines that pierced the mist-laden air and threw brilliant bursts of light across the museum's titanium tiles. Langdon's own architectural taste tended more to the classical stylings of museums like the Louvre or the Prado, and yet as he watched the fog and flame hover above the lagoon,
I sure wish something would happen.
he could think of no place more suitable than this ultra-modern museum to host an event thrown by a man who loved art and innovation and who glimpsed the future so clearly.
Just fucking get it over with. God.
Yeah.
There's nothing more innovative than a fog machine.
Now, walking through the mist, Langdon pressed on to the museum's entrance, an ominous black hole in the reptilian structure. As he neared the threshold, Langdon had the uneasy sense that he was entering the mouth of a dragon.
Is he on mushrooms?
What if you had a room with that the walls and the lighting were all constructed in such a way that when it filled with fog, it removed your sense of the borders of the room? And
That's a haunted house. You're thinking of a haunted house.
I've never been to one. Are they that cool?
The cool ones are.
Fair enough. Moving on.
Chapter 2.
Hey, we finally finished a whole chapter.
Holy shit.
What happened in that chapter? What happened?
Robert Langdon went to a museum.
Yeah.
That's literally it. I mean, to be fair to the book,
To be fair.
it's only like 5 pages.
I don't care, okay? Like, interesting things can happen in a story that aren't relevant to the...
Yeah.
Like, none of that happened here. This was just like, get on with it, let's get to the point, and then the chapter ends.
Yeah.
It just ends.
It's not even that they're, that he's vividly describing the museum. I've read plenty of, science... I've read plenty of books that extravagantly...
I like that word.
It's a
Let's
good
make it
word.
one.
I just made it up. That just luxuriously describe the details of the world that they're building and the environment that they're creating. And they do it in such a way as to be engaging. And I don't feel like this is accomplishing that.
No, like, the only information that we're getting out of the descriptiveness of this environment is Dan Brown's been to a museum once. He's a real smart guy. And whoever, I forget which one it is, whoever's going into it is very easily amused.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, the majority of this chapter doesn't really seem like I mean, it's literally just a depiction of the Guggenheim in Bilbao.
Right.
That's pretty much what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
You get a tour of the Guggenheim, and Robert Langdon just sort of metaphorically sucks Edmund Kirsch's dick for a little while.
Right. And not even a tour of the Guggenheim, just like the outside kind of front entrance of the Guggenheim.
Right.
We haven't even gone into the museum yet until the very end of the chapter.
Oh, and he name drops a restaurant in Boston.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, a little overworked, I think, maybe.
Overindulgent, I would say.
Yeah. Because I don't know, do we need to keep going with this?
No, well,
Do we want to?
I don't think we need to, honestly.
I part of me wants to find out what this fulcrum is that what's-his-face is about to knock out of religion's structure.
I do kind of want that. Like, we've had this reveal set up of this thing that Kirsch is going to show the world that's going to change everything. And assuming we can get to that point in an efficient way, I would like to know what that is.
Yeah, I feel like that might be something that isn't actually shown. Something's going to happen.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we can go through chapter 2 and see if it actually drops it, but let's keep in mind that this book has like 30 chapters.
Right.
So
you want to
if
give
they
it
were-
like another 15?
I mean, not really.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I really hope that we go through all of this trouble, and at the end, it's just Edmund or whoever the guy is going like, "Can God create a rock that he can't lift?" And he makes the mind blown motion at the religious people. He's like, "Later, nerds," and he hops on his motorcycle and does a wheelie out the front door.
Turns his hat around backwards.
Oh, I lied, by the way. This book does not have 30 chapters. It has at least 95 chapters.
The hell
no.
you say? How many
Um,
pages is it?
99 chapters has this book. And an epilogue. Oh no, 105 chapters.
We're not going to get to the point in the next 15.
You don't think
It's
so?
not going to happen.
You
No.
think that? No.
No. Having
No.
read both Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code, there's no way.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I mean, why would you keep reading? That's the carrot to keep you going.
Wait, no. I've just discovered the mastery of Brown. Okay, so like we just went through that chapter, right?
Yeah.
And nothing happened. And I just had this sensation of like, I need to get at least a little bit of the next chapter because I don't want the time that we put into the previous chapter to be completely for nothing. And if every chapter is like that, then you can't put the book down.
And then we
Like-
just recorded like a 20-hour audiobook
Like,
of Origins with us just occasionally interrupting to scream about it.
just trying in vain to not, like, please, there's got to be something that doesn't make all of this a waste of time. And every time you go back in, you're putting more of an ante in. So
I mean,
like,
everything we do is a waste of time, Chris. Like, let's be aware of that now.
yeah, but that's not the point I'm making, Joe.
Yeah, for what it's worth,
Mhm.
the second chapter, which I've just sort of been looking over here, it's very short.
Mhm.
All of the chapters are short. It's 100 chapters, 100 plus chapters, but they're all like between 5 and 8 pages, it looks like,
Sure.
or less. And chapter 2 picks up with a completely new character
All right, fuck it.
inside of a deserted pub in an unfamiliar town.
We're done here.
No. We're done.
Is it a sexy smart person?
Don't care.
No, it's Navy Admiral Luis Avila.
That doesn't mean she's not sexy or smart.
He was seated on a bar stool inside a deserted pub in an unfamiliar town.
Yeah, I
He
don't
was
care.
drained from his journey, having just flown into this city after a job
And
that had
boy, were
taken him
his
many
arms tired.
thousands of miles in 12 hours.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm over it.
He hadn't parted his lips for the devil in almost a year.
Phrasing?
Is that a phrase? Because I like that phrase actually. Like, is that a phrase for drinking?
Yeah. He's took a sip of his second tonic water and stared at the colorful array of bottles behind the bar. Any man can stay sober in a desert, he mused, but only the loyal can sit in an oasis and refuse to part his lips.
Yeah, very occasionally Dan Brown will drop a phrase or a sequence of words that's really good.
Part your lips for the devil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't care about Admiral Luis and his drinking tonic water.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll be a moderately important character later as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. The chapter ends with him going to the museum. So this is the gathering everything together.
Sure.
Chapter 3 picks back up with Langdon right inside the atrium of the museum. And...
If we gather all of these incredibly uninteresting characters together, like, what'll happen?
They'll become boring Voltron.
It'll become a real world Dan Brown edition.
Whatever. Are we done? Or do we want to
I've
see
been
if
done
there are any
the whole
carrots
time.
at the end of the string?
No, I'm done. I'm getting in the furnace. You guys want to plug your dicks into this pencil sharpener? Go ahead. I'm done.
This is another one of the books that I might actually take the time to read because I don't
Because you hate
Dan
yourself?
Brown.
I don't hate him. I just find him a bit boring.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I touched on this back when we read Digital Fortress.
Mm-hmm.
I read Da Vinci Code back when everybody else on the planet read the Da Vinci Code, and I thought it was okay. It was interesting enough.
I thought it was a fun book.
Yeah, I mean, it was decently written, but it just happened to be basically a retelling of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which I had already read.
Right.
And so there wasn't really a whole lot in there that shocked or surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what Dan Brown writes about are things that I find interesting, like the crossover between science and religion and, you know, those ideas about, are these tools all that different? Are they really just ways that we try to explain the universe around us? What are they?
Sure.
He does actually, you know, kind of touch on what is the purpose of art. A lot of what he talks about, I think, are things that I'm interested in.
Right.
I just like it a lot better when Neil Stephenson does it.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're describing to me is like you're in a theater ready for a show and someone comes out with like a clarinet or a really other mechanically complicated instrument, and you're looking at the instrument like, oh, that's very interesting and a marvel of design and engineering and whatever. And I wonder what they're going to do with this. And they get up there and just go like, and like, oh, they can't play. And then he just gets off stage and, oh, that was it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we said the same thing during the Digital Fortress recording. There's always the kernel of an interesting idea in a Dan Brown novel. He just focuses on giving you way too many of the wrong details.
Yeah, I feel like that's my, because like I really enjoyed the Da Vinci Code so much so that I bought Angels and Demons and read that as well. I guess as I've gotten older, I just don't have patience for books that jerk themselves off but don't come.
Right.
That's a very apt description.
Yeah.
Can we have a description of the episode and just give that to Kaine?
In the kind of the early episodes, a phrase we used a lot was, I don't like when a book wastes my time.
Right.
And I feel like Dan Brown is a little more willing to do that than I'd like him to be.
So I mentioned Neil Stephenson earlier, and I don't know if you guys have ever read anything by him.
Neil Stephenson's good.
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
I'm a massive Stevenson fan to the extent that I actually read all of Cryptonomicon and almost hated myself for it by the time I was done.
The thing's a fucking brick.
Oh my God, you could fucking kill a moon with that book.
Really?
It's a very particular turn of phrase, David.
I like it, though. I like that it implies that the moon is a living organism, which is incredibly terrifying if you actually get right down to it.
Yeah.
But Dan Brown, again, interesting concepts. He goes and explores things that I find interesting and fascinating things to go and explore, but he does it in a way that I don't care for.
Sure.
Now, he has gotten better, having read Digital Fortress and now, part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
agree.
definitely gotten better.
I don't agree. It's like a pig breeder that like he brings a bad pig one year, like, oh, that's not a good pig, and then the next year he put lipstick on it, and like it's still a bad pig. it looks nicer, but it's like the core, it's still bad.
He's gotten functionally better. You know, your 10th novel is always going to be better than your first novel.
One hopes, yeah.
One hopes, yeah. His sentences are better structured, but I don't feel like his storytelling has gotten,
you know, the core aspect of most mediums of art.
Well, it is somewhat hard to judge that by reading the first chapter of something.
That's fair, right?
No, because we read the first chapter of Something Wicked This Way Comes, and we were flabbergasted. We were mystified.
Oh, sure. There is definitely something to be said for the whole, like, when bookstores were still places that you could go to and walk around in, and not just the internet. One of the things that I would do when I was trying to decide if I wanted to buy a book is I would just walk around until I saw something that sounded vaguely interesting, pick it up, read the back text, and if I was still interested, I would open it and just read the first page.
Mm-hmm.
And if the first page made me want to keep going, then there was probably a pretty high chance I was going to buy that book.
Right.
This book, I don't know if I would have kept reading after the first page.
I definitely wouldn't have.
Yeah, I'm in Kaine's camp here.
Which is interesting because honestly, the first chapter was the most
interesting part.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean...
You know, I've said a lot of bad things about Dan Brown, but I do have to give him credit for one thing. In the first chapter, some things did happen.
Yeah.
No, in the first chapter, he described a museum. But in the prologue...
Right.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the prologue. Kaine, don't turn the furnace off when you're done, please.
It's my fucking furnace. Go someplace else.
Fine, I'll just someone shoot me out the airlock. I can't do it from inside.
What? Do we have anything else, or do we want to say goodbye to the listeners?
Let's say goodbye.
Yeah, we've covered it. I mean,
thank you for your time. If you're still here, don't forget you can go to www.wegiveyoubrainworms.com and you can learn about us, find our Patreon, support whatever the fuck it is that we're doing. If you are a YouTube listener, please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment. It helps us, it helps us and it helps you and it helps the Lord. We're really sorry.
I'm sorry.
Really, really sorry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn the thing off now.
Yup.
This has been a production of Brainworms Presents. Any copyrighted content contained within is used for purposes of review. Brainworms Podcast is David Combs, Kaine Magdalen, Christian Schaefer, and Joseph Wells. The theme music is Hodgepodge No. 1 by Brian Davis. If you like what you heard and can support us and learn about our other projects at WeGiveYouBrainworms.com or by leaving a review on your favorite listening app.
So it's just a fucking banana duct taped to a wall. Just a banana. Just a banana.
Fuck art.
Don't come.